The Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is roll call.
Emily. David.
Yeah.
Doug.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Cody. Yes.
Next item on the agenda, approval of the agenda. I don't believe there's no changes, so I will require a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Doug. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Cody. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, conflict of interest disclosures. I've received none.
None.
Next item on the agenda, public input.
Also none.
Next item on the agenda, consent agenda, will require a motion to approve the following: the minutes of the regularly scheduled school board meeting of January 13th, 2025, the minutes of the Cornwall Cooperative Board of Advisors meeting of January 15th, 2025, financial reports and claims. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Cody. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by David. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, administrative reports. Elementary principal.
All right, our AR term 2 ended. We had our soaring celebration in the gym. Students who made their goal, they received a certificate from the Total Stop for a real ice cream treat. So we thank Total Stop for doing that for our kids. Jump rope for heart, we finished that. We raised $4,116.07 for the American Heart Association, which met our $3,500 goal, and now we will receive money to purchase some equipment for that. And then 12 people, our 10 student council members, and then myself and Miss Rao were all pied in the face. That was fun. Kids loved it. We had 34 students complete Finn's mission, which includes hands-only CPR. That was one short of our 35 student goal, so pretty close. National School Counselor Week was celebrated last week, so a thank you to Riley Dent that she helped with that for her senior capstone project, and then a big thank you to Mrs. Sweeter for all that she does here at Freeman. Our SPED internal review meeting took place on January 31st, so all of our case managers brought a file and went through that file, kind of fine-tooth comb. That's part of the review. So we have completed everything for prong 1 in our SPED review, and now we're working on completing things for prong 2. Our access testing is going. That started on January 28th, so we'll continue with that until it's complete, and that is for our ESL students. And then we had fun dressing up for National Sweater Day on February 4th. Congratulations to Jody Newharth. She was selected as the South Dakota AMST Award winner. So that's the Presidential Award of Excellence in Math and Science Teaching. And then Happy School Board Recognition Week next week. Parent-teacher conferences will be this week, February 12th and 13th from 12 to 6. And then on April 4th, we will have our pre-K and kindergarten screening, so there will be no preschool or kindergarten classes on that day. That is not the same day as the Corn Belt screening. We're doing those completely separate, so that way they can come, if they are 4 and 5-year-olds, come for the Corn Belt, get their information, know whether they qualify for that first, before they then decide whether they would like to come to ours. So it's about 2 weeks difference this time. And then on the back, I have that principal feedback form. I just like to ask whether or not it's okay that I hand that out to my staff every year, so I'm just asking if that's okay, and if anybody's opposed to that. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Awesome. Junior, senior high school principal report.
So you have Mitzi's report in your packets. I advised her to stay home tonight with the roads that they're at. They're living out of town, so she opted to just enclose that for you to read. If you'd like, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to her.
Okay. Business manager report.
So I will be submitting a food service equipment grant that is due on the 14th. We are going to request a new dishwasher for our elementary kitchen. Currently, we don't have one down there. We have a 3-compartment sink that they rinse the dishes down there, and then they're hauling them down to the high school central kitchen to be actual sanitized. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense because most of the lunches and breakfasts we serve are in the elementary. We serve on an average of 140 lunches and 30 for breakfast down in the elementary, whereas in the high school, junior high, we only serve 50 lunches and 6 breakfasts about.
50 lunches?
Yeah, for junior, on an average. So it just makes sense for efficiency purposes to have a dishwasher down there. I'm working with, I got a few different quotes, but right now I think we're probably gonna go with restaurant design, equipment, and supplies out of Sioux Falls. They're the best quote. There'll be a slight remodel in there. Where the sink is currently, we'll probably put the dishwasher there, so we'll have to kind of work with plumbing and electric to remodel that area. So there'll be a couple of additional expenses, but the main expense would be the dishwasher. So if we could get that with the grant, that would be very beneficial. Right now, the Department of Education is temporarily allowing schools that exceed a 5-month limit to apply for a 2-year spend down plan. Right now, we currently are not in that, we don't have that problem. We're operating at a 4-month limit, so it doesn't really make sense to purchase that dishwasher out of our food service fund if we had to. I'm working with Deb on purchasing minor equipment to update and improve the efficiency. We're looking at purchasing a warming station for down in the elementary. We only have 3 warmers, so it'd be nice to have a 4th one down there for them. We bought, it's called a sectionalizer. It basically preps their salad bar. It cuts things like the wedges and slices, because right now they're doing that all manually by hand. So just working with her on updating our stuff. Budget updates, there is a current 5-year capital outlay plan that Jake will kind of talk about later. But that is updated, outlaying our next 5 years. And then we got our updated county evaluations. So in your packet, there's 3 different pages. It's kind of more just of the FYI. It's kind of interesting to look at. The second and third page of the packet will show the school evaluations that were payable in 2024 and that will be payable in 2025. The first sheet is kind of just a quick little snippet how it affects our budget. We had a 3% increase in our 3 district county valuations. Because of the levies that are set by the state, though, for the general fund, it actually decreased our general fund taxable valuation just by a little bit. Well, not by a little bit, 3%. It decreased it by $64,000. So on this first one, because they go off of the calendar year, we go off the fiscal year, you have to look at the valuations and slice it by 2. To put it in our budget. So you can see that in half of 2025, it decreased a little bit. So the bold is what our total tax request will be. And then the italicized is what we requested or what I budgeted. So in all of them, we'll actually be getting a little bit more than what was budgeted. So that's always good. And that is all. Any questions on valuations?
No, this is helpful, thank you.
That's all I had.
Superintendent report.
Happy School Board Appreciation Week. Appreciate the board that we have. Everybody works very hard and you guys do a nice job. We're very fortunate to have the board that we do. I know that doesn't always get mentioned. The reason that this district is in the great place that it is because of you guys. So celebrate.
I
think I gave a certificate that we got from this data. Sorry, I'll do better next year. From the transportation side of things, we're having some issues with bus number 2. We have the driver's side front mirror has been pulled off of the bus, and that caused a crack on the front part of that hood to the point where we got some quotes to get it replaced with a new hood, and that was far exceeded the value of the bus. So we've communicated with EMC, our insurance company. I've communicated with the Facilities and Grounds Committee and laid out the options, and they thought the best option would be to try to get insurance to cover the cost of that new hood. The insurance came back and said it's not worth it, so we're going to call the bus a total loss. So their valuation, which is in your packets on the vehicle sheet, the one-pager motor or vehicle VCV worksheet. You can see the totals that they valued that bus at. They are saying that if we total that bus and give it over to them, that they will give us $2,750. $2,750. If we decide to keep the bus and repair it, that will give us $2,625. So where we're at with the process is I've reached out to a salvage yard and a company that scraps buses also happens to be our inspector. So that was an important piece for me. I want to make sure that if we do decide to repair this bus, that our inspector is gonna clear it. So I want to make sure we get his input as well. He's reaching out to a couple different salvage yards that have buses and see if he can even locate a hood and then find out what the cost to that would be. If it's a reasonable price, then it would probably make sense to collect that $2,625, pay for the hood, pay for it to be replaced, and then keep that bus. Part of the reason it had such a low valuation was because of the miles. It's 165,430 miles. For bus standards, it's getting towards the higher end. And our insurance company doesn't feel it's worth being fixed. But I could see perspective of the Facilities and Grounds Committee too, that we could probably get another 30,000 miles out of that bus before, probably want to look at taking it out of our fleet. So that's the update on more news to come on that one when I found out the quotes for that hood, but more to come on that one. We're working on civil rights data collection right now. I'm working with Seth to try to find a way to simplify this. This is one of the longest and just worst forms that we have to fill out, and just with the comprehensiveness of the amount of data that goes into this document, and we're pulling it out of Infinite Campus, so there's got to be a way to connect the two and upload a document. So we're working on trying to simplify that process. Hopefully we can find a shortcut to that. We're on day 18 of 40 for the legislative session. In your packet I've included a nice document that summarizes all the bills that are being proposed right now. It has SASD in the first column. It has their position on that. Obviously, they're advocating for schools, so that's a big group to help guide us through what are good bills and what are bad bills. It's got the bill number, so you know exactly which one it is. And then I like this sheet for the short description that it gives. Usually there's with the bills, it doesn't take much for you to understand what the bill's all about. So that short little narrative about what's included with the bill is what I see very valuable. And then it has the action that has been taken so far. So two pages front and back just summarizes that very quickly for you if you wanted to look at that. And I was free to reach out to any legislators or ask me to do so on your behalf if you feel strongly one way about any of those bills. Next item would be the Corn Belt Conference meeting was a couple weeks ago. Two discussion points that I want to point out to the board. There are also the minutes that I shared with you of adding softball as a conference sport. That's something that will be looked at in the future. Seemed favorable for the discussion from the ADs that were part of the meeting. Currently, there's 5 schools in the conference that have softball, so it could be another nice opportunity to recognize our student athletes. Also was discussed, this is not an agenda item, this was in side conversation was brought up as an idea from the group of having 4th and 5th grade basketball join as a school sport. I know Doug's done some coaching for the younger levels, and usually it boils down to which parent's going to step up and be the coach. And I love how we have it set up where we have that junior high, 6th, 7th, and 8th for an opportunity for them to come in. And mainly 6th grade, they practice, they get a couple games, but it's not a whole lot of games that 6th graders get an opportunity for. It's great for 7th and 8th getting a handful of games, and it's a short season. So what was discussed, and it's kind of a neat idea, just very preliminary, but just want to bring it to your attention because it could come up again in the future, would be through that months of November and December that 7th grade and 8th grade, or could be opposite, could be 5th and 6th grade and could go first. One of those 2 grades could have their quick month and a half long season, 2-month season, and then what I think would be very nice for any teams would be you could have the same coach that coaches after the new year, and you could do the other 2 grades for the January and February season. both be condensed, but gives an opportunity for all those grade levels to get a little bit more organization and some more games in. So again, that was nothing formal that's been addressed yet, but it was part of the conversation at the meeting that I wanted to bring to your guys' attention. That's all I had.
Unfinished business, there is none. New business, the school board will hold a discussion about staffing for the elementary special education program.
And Katie's got some information for us on this one, I believe, bring our cabinet discussion to the meeting.
I mean, we just discussed looking at some support in our special education program with our map room and having some consistency within that room. That used to be a position that was had here for quite some time, and then this will be the second year that we haven't had that. And I feel like we just have a strong need to have some continuity back in the room. Is there any more that, I don't really know how much I can or
Yeah, there's some needs that we're realizing that we just need to take a different approach and probably looking at where there might be a need for additional staffing. And so far, we've brainstormed a lot of different ways. We've restructured that classroom. We've shifted employees around, and we just can't seem to find a solution to it. So we're probably going to be coming to the board for increase an FTE. Do you think we're at that point now where we would want to ask for that and post for that? What's your perspective?
next school year?
That's what I was wondering, if it would be for the 2025-2026 school year.
What qualifications does that individual have to have?
SPED degree.
Element, yeah. SPED's K-12, but this would be an elementary SPED position. I didn't want to put a motion on there and get the cart in front of the horse. I wanted to open it up for discussion first. If the board feels that they're in a position where we can move forward with that, we certainly can. Or we can, if you want to think about it, we can. We're plenty early right now as far as posting goes, but that changes in a hurry, and SPED's a very hard.
I was just going to say, but if I recall, SPED's a pretty difficult one, so the longer kind of runway that we have, probably the better.
Mhm.
I mean, I would be comfortable adding it. I don't know what are everyone else's thoughts?
What does that look like with our budget?
So we actually don't receive any state aid in our special education fund because the state basically looks at our local effort from taxes, and we can receive enough from our local efforts, so we don't need state aid. And currently, we do not, you can see from this snippet, we don't request the max for special ed that we could. So there definitely is room to
Okay.
add one.
Also, in the past, that position in that room had been an administrative position making more, and that wouldn't be what we were looking for.
Okay.
No.
I'm comfortable adding it as an action item unless anybody else is opposed or wants more time. We can certainly push it to March, but I just think, again, given the difficulty in recruiting candidates for this position, I think it'd probably be worthwhile to post it earlier than later.
I wouldn't disagree. If they view there to be a need and we can afford it, it'd be much better to get the word out now that we're looking for a candidate versus when we absolutely need one.
Right. Chris, what are your
I'm
thoughts?
fine with it.
You're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need it.
Doug?
Yeah, if the funding's there, we can get after it.
Okay. Then we'll add an agenda item. Under new business, will be the new number 2. Will require a motion to approve an additional elementary SPED position as discussed. Do I have a motion?
So,
Is that you, Doug?
no, Chris.
Oh, Chris. Motion by Chris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Cody. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda, the school board will perform the first reading of the proposed 2025-2026 calendar.
Draft of this calendar is in your packets. so far we're at in the process, I've met with the administrative team, we talked about it, met with the calendar committee and made a couple adjustments, brought it back to the administrative team, didn't feel 100% comfortable with some of the recommendations from the calendar committee, so shifted a couple things back to the original state, and this is where we're at right now. And goal for tonight would be to get the board's feedback and then bring it back to the calendar committee for a final viewing, and then bring it to the board for approval in the March meeting.
Are there any big changes as far as number of, I'm trying to look, like number of Flyer Fridays or anything?
Yep, so we got one
last
more.
year?
This year we had 7. We got the calendar committee requested
One more.
and evened out for
Sure.
for each semester.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yep, for each semester. Homecoming obviously was shifted to a different date. One of the bigger ones that led to some discussion was that Veterans Day is midweek, and the calendar committee was trying to find a way to move the day from Veterans Day to the 13th. Yeah, that's for the state B football was on that Thursday.
Oh, sure.
It just didn't flow, and it just didn't. The administrative team felt like, that it was best to keep it on Veterans Day.
Right.
So we moved that back. Some discussion on where to put prom, and then the Flyer Friday would trailed with that. Ultimately, this year we had a situation where prom was on the same day as Marion's, which creates a little bit of conflict for some kids. I just spoke with Mary, and they're going to keep their prom on the second Friday in April, and they have confirmed that that's where it's going to be next year. So if we go the third, we shouldn't interfere with that at all, and then it makes sense to keep that Flyer Friday there. There was some discussion about shifting prom to a Saturday. The prom advisors felt more comfortable with it being on a Friday and keeping it that way. So ultimately, the 17th is what we landed on for that one.
We do not know when state FFA will be.
Right,
And
that's
being that there is that Easter break at the beginning of April, which is where it had been, and with all of the
It could be then the
frost
23rd.
changing, we have no clue. We did try to figure that out, but that is the reason why we shifted prom for this year, was because of that. So we may be having that discussion again if for some reason state FFA is on prom.
Yeah.
The committee was very happy with the flex PD day that we did at the start of the year this year. So, yeah, things were very favorable for that, to keep that in place.
Good. I don't think I have any.
Conferences, that's always a discussion point. This year, we tried a different format from fall to spring, and they said that, they tried it, and we know conferences doesn't attract a lot of people at the high school. It's structured very well for an elementary setting, and it's just kind of the nature of the elementary. It's just more favorable for conferences and just less favorable for high school, because they're becoming adults, and I think parents expect kids to take control of their learning when they get to be high schoolers. So I think that's just forever going to be something we're going to have a problem with and not be able to solve. So, but they felt it was best to go back to the format that we had been using. So I commend them for being open to trying something new, but it was not favorable, so we went back.
I will say, I'm a proponent of cutting the Flyer Fridays in half to one quarterly. From the conversations I've had with some parents, the kids that really need the individual attention, they struggle with actually getting their kids to school with the setup. So a lot of them don't actually make it to school. So instead of them getting the actual more attention, they're just not going to school that day. But I do like, from talks with some of the administrators, they seem to be, quarterly, it's nice to get the books cleared up, get settled up, any missing work.
Out of curiosity, are these town kids, or are they?
Town kids.
I wonder if we need to figure out a better busing setup.
Right, yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
I've
I
heard a
mean,
similar thing
Sounds
from
like maybe more of a
kids
logistical.
showing up that aren't supposed to be there.
So I just think there's a diminishing return to an extent. That I don't hate the premise of it. I don't know if it could be structured better.
I wonder if it's a communication breakdown, because we will pick up at the route that if they're a regular bus riding kid,
I think a lot of it is both parents working out of town, the kids have to go somewhere for daycare, or they go to a drop-in and tea because the parents work in Sioux Falls, that it doesn't work. And a lot of times I've found in my discussions that those are the kids probably needing the most attention, or at least anecdotally from my conversations. So they're being underserved by Flyer Fridays versus what the original intent of it to be. But like I said, from the previous conversations with this administration last year during negotiations, they brought up some good points quarterly. Nice to have that day, get the kids in the can, missing assignments, missing tests, we can get them in, clear up the books. I like that.
Prior to Flyer Fridays, we would have one, I think it was a Tuesday, wasn't it, Chris? You remember we'd have one half-day Tuesday every month for professional development in the afternoon. So the Flyer Friday isn't much different, it's just, because in that same situation, they would
It's still
they
happening.
would still need to find somebody for their kid in the afternoon. So I don't know that that's what we had prior to Flyer Fridays, way back.
What are the percentage of kids that get invited to come to Flyer Friday and actually then do attend? Do we know that at all?
On the elementary, there's a
Yeah.
ton of kids down there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would
Yeah.
guess that for
And
most.
even though they're only scheduled sometimes for 30 minutes or an hour, we have things for them to do if they're here from, because some kids get picked up on the bus.
Right.
And so they're picked up and they're in the building by 8 and they're not leaving till 11:30, but they might only be scheduled for 2 30-minute sessions.
Right.
But we still have stations for them to go to
to do.
if they're, so they can be housed here all morning if they need to be, and
Right.
a lot of them are.
Right. That's really nice.
You probably can't answer this because you're on the elementary side, but like even on the eligibility side for high school, what's our rate of non-eligible students anymore since we've started Flyer Friday?
I don't know that answer.
And also Flyer Friday is nice to have that once a month. Instead of kids missing school, like parents can plan for appointments and
Doctor's
stuff like
appointments,
that on
haircuts, I
Fridays.
agree.
And they're not missing school because kids will miss school for a haircut.
I know.
If they can do it on Friday, they can put it off to Flyer Friday.
You'd be hard pressed to find 30 days where there's not a Friday with no school. Without Flyer Fridays. I don't think I've
September.
seen consecutively 5 weeks without a Friday off.
September would be.
And I can't speak for everybody, but all my kids get their haircut after school.
We appreciate that.
That's nice.
Because, school should probably become more of a haircut.
We appreciate
But
that.
even for doctor's appointments, dentist appointments,
Well, I
orthodontist
did mine in the
appointments.
garage before I came here, so my perspective on this could be skewed a little bit.
Did a good job too, by the way.
Usually I miss spots.
And you're using that for Flex PD.
Yeah.
Not flex anymore, it's just PD.
No, I'm not, it's not my hill to die on, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least
Sure.
state that I think kids learn better when they're in school, and I would be hard pressed to believe that the lion's share of kids that need Flyer Friday are showing up to it.
I would say, and I totally get your sentiment, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say, we do a lot to try and make sure that they can arrive, but there's no way to.
Oh, no, I think the school's doing a fantastic job of trying to implement this.
Sure.
But I think the better way to implement it is just have a day of school. And it just works like school works. Instead of trying all these ways to implement and get around just having school. But I think a Flyer Friday quarterly serves itself well. Personal opinion, it could be cut in half.
I think that's something you can maybe take back. I like how it is with 4 and 4. A parent of a dyslexic child who really, really benefited from Flyer Friday and from having, regular check-ins with his teacher once a month. One time when he was in elementary, I actually really love Flyer Friday.
My
But
kids go to
that's-
Flyer
yeah.
Friday every time they're invited.
Yeah,
Mom, make
exactly.
sure of it. But from the parents who aren't the ones who
Yes.
share my house.
Exactly.
that
No,
have
I think
conversations
that's
with.
very reasonable to say too. Yeah, no, I totally get that perspective as well. Any other discussion?
Why is prom on Friday?
Solid question.
Why is it on a Friday? I think usually it's on a Friday. It gives the kids an extra day to recoup since they're out till 4 a.m. I don't know the answer. That's the best answer I have for
Has
you,
been an after prom?
as far as I can remember.
I think so.
I think so.
I think the reason why I think the committee wanted to keep it on the Friday was because if they do it on a Saturday, we probably won't get the gym to decorate until then, and nobody shows up to decorate. So if they do it on Friday, they have the kids all day Thursday to decorate.
Clean up too.
Yeah.
If they have prom till 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, they don't get them back on Sunday to help clean up.
Why couldn't they decorate at the same time? Just leave it decorated for prom on Saturday. Still decorate on Friday. Isn't that your?
And just not have a flyer Friday that day?
Sounds right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just, I
Got
mean,
my vote.
it just
I think
seems,
the other reason also for it is because we have the flyer Fridays and we can do it on the Friday, then we avoid overlapping with a lot more proms just because most of them are on Saturdays. But
okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, the whole prom thing here is so unique from my perspective. From the Grand March to like having it on Friday to having activities afterward, the whole thing is outside.
pretty normal for all of us.
I was just gonna say, really?
I'm with David.
So I'm
The
just,
only thing I had similar was they had games for us after prom, so we didn't go and do stuff.
Right.
we just had,
But the whole Grand March thing, when I first moved here, was, what is this?
well, we actually watched that on YouTube before we moved here. And that was really.
And you still moved here?
Yeah, we still moved here.
Commendable.
We had to ask more
Commendable.
questions. We had to come here and find out.
Yeah, that-
You get to experience it this year.
Yeah, so, anyway, no, I was just curious, just morbid curiosity, I guess.
Something that came up as a reason why they wanted it switched to a Saturday, and this is the calendar committee, is somebody who has a daughter that's in prom and they're doing their daughter's hair. There's not a lot of time for them to squeeze that in on a Friday before the actual Grand March.
I bet Cody
especially
could
when-
do her hair in 5 minutes in his garage.
I line these things up. I can do 5 an hour.
That was a pertinent favorite of Saturday instead of Friday, but that's maybe, yeah, we want to be respectful of our advisors as well and their opinions, and they both felt pretty strongly that they wanted to keep it on Friday.
Has nothing to do with so there's no school.
Still a flyer
We
Friday.
need a flyer Friday, so we,
No school?
strategically, we put the flyer Friday there, so it's,
Just saying it. In my perspective, it seems like prom on Friday means no school on Friday, and prom on Saturday means we have to go to school on Friday.
that's exactly what it would be, but that flyer Friday would just shift to another day.
Unless we just had less of Flyer Fridays.
All right.
Any other feedback for the calendar committee?
Beyond the,
Quarterly
yep.
flyer Friday?
I mean, I would just get their feedback, I guess.
And I would like to see some numbers to substantiate to their feedback, that I would like to know the attendance rate of elementary and high school, junior high, the kids that have been requested attendance versus the kids that actually show up for it. And any
This
improvements
question
we've
is a good
seen.
one. Like even just looking at sports eligibility, I think, I mean, is a good way to know, are kids missing assignments, et cetera? Or, I mean, even the ICU list.
Is it helping grades? Is it getting kids? Well,
I think it's a.
and by all means, if it's improving grade point averages, and
By all means,
it'd be
yeah.
hard for me to make a lobby against it.
Well, if we took away the PD time there, wouldn't that be something that we would have to negotiate anyway? To change when that happens?
I'm trying to think back if there is PD actually listed in the negotiated
I
agreement.
believe it was.
I think so, yeah, if I remember correctly. Let's get that document.
From an elementary standpoint, I can tell you that a Flyer Friday is way more work than a regular school day. Bottom line, it's way more work than a regular school day. To figure out who you're bringing in, what you're working on, contacting the parent, making sure we have a bus lined up, making sure the bus gets to where it's supposed to be lined up, making sure the kids get on the bus, get them home from the bus, get them to the right places. A regular day of school. I'm just
Sounds
telling
like I
you.
got vote number 2 for having a regular day of
But
school.
I do love Flyer Fridays. I do think they serve a great purpose, but I am telling you, like, it's
You're
not
not doing it
it's
because
not
it's
an
easy.
easy way out.
Right.
Not on the elementary side. It's not an easy way out on the elementary
It's a
side.
lot of work for those teachers too, and they.
Well, I'm not saying like
They want to keep
using it for guys to have it easy at work. I just think sometimes we're reaching too much to justify the Flyer Friday than it's worth versus having a day of school.
I think it's reasonable to ask for more data to support. Yeah. Any other comments? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a discussion about potential dates for teacher negotiations.
Okay, so veto day is March 31st. With how things are going in the legislative session right now, this might be a year to definitely make sure that we wait till after that date. I would propose the April 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. We usually get a pretty strong indicator of what we're going to be at for a percentage ahead of time, so Anjali and I can start working on the documents that we need to present to the board that looks at the numbers and across all of our bargaining groups. I guess I should say, including all of our groups, not bargaining groups. This year is also going to be interesting with the teacher compensation formula, where those dollars are going to go, especially if it's a smaller percentage of dollars. So definitely going to be some tough decisions if things stay where they're at. But we should, I think the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd should give us enough time to have that prepared.
I'm available any of those days. I have no preference. Cody, same?
I'll probably be in the city office. I rarely leave. I might go to Yankton. I can be back in time.
Oh, good, okay.
I believe April 2nd's my son's birthday, but he'll get over it.
I got something on the 3rd, 1st and 2nd.
That's a Thursday, right?
I'm good on anything.
What's your schedule look like?
I don't even have the right phone with me. I think I'm fine.
Okay.
The right phone?
I know, I left my work phone at home
You
as
guys have
well.
multiple, that's a little,
It's overkill.
I've heard songs about people with 2 phones.
Are we okay with giving either date as an option? And they can
2nd?
choose?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Well, April 1st, nobody has to take us serious.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, April 1st or 2nd. The school board will perform the final reading of the following district policies: graduation requirements, early graduation, and purchasing procedures.
There were no changes from the policy review committee for the graduation. That's up for approval tonight. And then this one has not been reviewed yet, but something that we need to have in place when we had our last food service officer.
ESSER.
Yes, sir. Yes.
We just basically added procurement, federal funds procurement. So number 7 on bids and sealed bids.
So something that those auditors said we should have in place, and that's practice for our district to have it in place. So that one's up for approval as well. There's really not much we can put on that. It's just the reality and something we have in place.
Any questions, comments? Great, if there's no further discussion, we'll require a motion to approve policy IKF graduation requirements / early graduation and policy DJ purchasing procedures. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Doug. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Chris. You missed out, David. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda will require a motion to approve the following surplus items.
Good. 3 items technically. Took a picture of them, put it on there so you can see they're all in pretty tough shape. If they were in color, you'd see it a little bit better. But the legs on at that training table so that's in the back of the pickup, that's what we were using to tape our athletes' ankles. So I'm surprised that didn't break for the shape the condition that is in, and those have been replaced. OI is moving to the T location, and they were giving away all of their tables that they had in the rooms in their current facility. And so Sherry and I went up there and loaded them up in a trailer and brought home 2, one new one for each of the training rooms, and then a couple of them for out in the custodial shed as well. They're a good, strong table for them to use as a workbench out there. So very thankful for them to help us out there with those.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by David.
That one.
I know. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Cody. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, the school board will hear a report from the Facilities and Health Committee.
Okay. My list, where did I put it? My update. Okay, so for the custodial shed, we are still ahead of schedule and under budget, so that's very good. Doug and Cody have done a very nice job of making some trips out there occasionally and just making sure that we're keeping up with some accountability checks. There's been a couple items that we brought up that we're gonna have to make sure that are done to make sure that we get the quality of the shed that we deserve and that was needed. But that's been going very well and progressing nicely. Paint project, we have 2 paint quotes that are in your package. One from ABE Paint and one from Dan Haggerty. So local and fairly local for both of them. You can see that for Dan's, looks like the most favorable quote for us. Like the fact that Dan is right here in town, and I think that's a good thing when our dollars are going to our local businesses right here in Freeman. Dan, I have informed, so I presented these to the Facilities and Grounds Committee. They decided Dan was the best option for us. Communicated with Dan, he's thinking maybe as early as Wednesday this week that he'll be able to come in, and he's using the same product there were equal quotes, that both quotes were based off of the same product for the stripping agent, the paint stripper, and then the paint is a different product between the two, but one thing I liked about Dan's quote too is that he's going through the paint at our local lumber yard as well. So all the products will be purchased in town, and the work performed by a person living in our community, I think all around is just a good thing. Dan had some time available, that's why he's able to start on Wednesday, possibly. He just had one job he had to finish up with, and he was gonna block off the next 6 weeks is what he's targeting for being able to remove all the current paint and apply the new paint. So we'll probably look at something like a little barrier. So this will be happening during school, so we're gonna have to our staff that it's going to be a distraction at the fall-in service. One of my messages to staff that this is a year of projects and patience, because anytime we have projects going on, it requires a little bit more patience, and we're going to do our best to try to keep a barrier between students passing in the hallways and the work that's being done. But painting's not real loud. The method that is used is you apply it's like a gel onto the wall. You put paper over top of it, it sticks to it, and you let it sit for 24 hours. You come back, you peel it off, and the paint just bubbles up and it peels right off the wall. So it's not loud. It's not like there's heavy scraping or grinding or stuff like that. What's that?
Are there a lot of fumes?
The reason we like this product is because there was
good.
no fumes. The one that Dan had tested was a little bit cheaper, actually fairly significantly cheaper, but was definitely had fumes. And when Angela and I went down to look at it, that was the first thing she says, "Oh my gosh, it stinks." And that would not have been healthy. That would have had to have happened outside of school hours, which extends the amount of time where we were looking for something to be able to get it done within that 6-week time frame. So very good news on that quote, I would say, all around. 5-year capital outlay budget. So our continuous school improvement committee that David is on is where this 5-year capital outlay document is housed, and then Angela just put it in her spreadsheet form. This is how she tracks it. And that's located in your packet. 5-year capital outlay plan at the top. So we met with David and talked about what we have for projects, where we want to place that, and what's the realistic dollar figure that we want to throw at that. And this is all rough estimates because we don't have any quotes or estimates for what these projects are going to cost. This is just prepping with our capital outlay dollars, prepping for what we think it may cost. So a lot of thinks, a lot of mays, a lot of not hardcore numbers here by any means. And we then took it to the Facilities and Grounds Committee and got their feedback on it and adjusted a few things. But as you can see there, we have, looking at the bottom, about the bottom third. So we have building improvements, which that's just numbers that based off of from year to year, we get a pretty good idea of what we're putting into our facilities. Obviously, you get the occasional surprise. Some years you don't have any. So that kind of balances out. Stadium update, that next one down there, that's going to be a big one. We're looking at in the future, something has to be done with our grandstand. A lot of uncertainty with that. Is it keep our existing grandstand and redo the decking, so that's what's going bad. The foundation also has some needs too. Is it tuck pointing and repairing the foundation and putting new decking on there? It is concrete. I've seen a lot of concrete in South Dakota and not a lot of it that doesn't have cracks to it. So I don't know if concrete is the best option to go with. Probably is going to boil down to getting estimates and going through that whole process and finding out what it would cost for tear down if we went with something different, what it would cost for repairs if we keep the same, and what would it cost for an aluminum structure if we go with that. I referenced them as tails, so there's different tails that spiral off of each of these projects, but a tail for the stadium would be a press box. The current press box is on top of our current stadium, the top 2 rows. If it were a separate structure behind, we could leave it and do something with the stadium only. Because it's on the stadium, either way, whether we go new decking or whether we go a whole new structure, the press box has to go. So we're looking at a pretty substantial cost for that. Thankfully, Doug's got some company or some schools and that he's working with, so we got a pretty decent number on what we think it would cost. Obviously, year to year, that's going to change too, but the number that we thought or felt comfortable with for the grandstand and the press box together was $1.25 million. And then the track is something that's a need in the future too, that's going to have to be resurfaced, would be approximately $750,000. So pretty healthy price tag on that, but you notice that they're in different years. So we have the paint project, which is the one below right now. You saw the quote and you saw what we're budgeting for. That's looking like we're going to be very safe with those numbers for the next 2 years. So that would include hallways. That's phase 1. Phase 2 for paint would be the classrooms, and then media center I might try to squeeze that into phase 1. And then phase 3 would be our gymnasium, and that would also accompany the updating of the murals that I showed you last month at that time. So that total dollar amount for those 2 years, the main focus is targeting our facilities right here in the school. We can't justify putting any money into our exterior facilities that are for athletics until we get this to where it needs to be in here, where the academics are happening. But we felt comfortable that could happen in that 2-year plan. Then in 3 years, we target that grandstand project first, and then target the track. And those were the 2 numbers that were accompanying those 2 projects. In the mix of all this, we do have some asbestos. We have a mastis. A mastis that's underneath. Anywhere you see carpet, there's a mastis that's underneath it. And what I learned when we did the ag classroom is that the mastis is like the glue that held the tiles together. When I talked to the state, I got the approval to move forward with it ahead of time before they actually came on site and looked at it. They said that they weren't worried about it because the mastis is not actually asbestos. But the interesting thing is that they still require an asbestos abatement even though it's not asbestos. So you still have to pay the fancy removal fee to get rid of it, even though there's not actually asbestos. But the scary thing is that that's a requirement. We have to do that. And every single square foot that you see carpet in this building has that underneath it. So that's a huge price tag. If our carpet fails, right now it's good. A, it's not asbestos, and B, it's contained. Contained meaning that carpet is in good working order over top of it. If we ever got to the point where that carpet was not containing it, we would have to tear up the carpet, we would have to remove the asbestos, and if all that happens in one lump sum, that's a huge dollar figure that we're looking at. So we want to make sure that we're being proactive and that we're staging this in and We felt comfortable with that number for a 4-year process, 4 phases, starting with the hallways, I think. Classrooms, oh yeah, that's right. Starting with the classrooms, working inside out, that's right. Facilities and Ground Committee felt that would be the best option. Do classrooms first, then go to hallways, and then office space. And you save the offices for last, and the thought process on that is that the offices get the lowest amount of foot traffic. Classrooms and hallways have the highest foot traffic, so that's the higher likelihood that that would wear out sooner.
This looks great.
Facilities and Grounds Committee or Continuous School Improvement Committee, anything that I missed that you would like to add?
No, I like the sentiment that we make sure that our primary focus is dedicated to the school. And like I said, once that's all shored up and all the projects are off the list, then we can look forward to the extracurriculars. And I think it's absolutely paramount to always be looking towards the future. 5 years will be here before you know it, and I'd rather be proactive than reactive.
Oh, this is really nice. Any other comments before we move on? All right. Next item on the agenda then is executive session. We'll require a motion to enter for the purpose of South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, parentheses 1. Do I have a motion? Motion by Cody. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. In executive session, 8:51 PM. Thank you.
We're underutilizing the.
You want to take a picture?
Underutilizing it.
Get some water. You can take her picture.
Oh, that's for real gonna happen.